folks, in watching this video channel, you're going to see me talk about Y-Combinator a lot, and you're going to see me talk about Shark Tank a lot, and many other contexts other than what's going to be shown to you today. But today, I want to go through the Shark Tank application with you, and I also want to go through the Y-Combinator application. I want you to see some key questions that they ask, and I want you to see and understand and believe that these are valuable questions. These are things inventors, small businesses, entrepreneurs need to know, need to be thinking about, need to be aware of. These questions are going to come at you, and if they don't get necessarily asked in a certain setting, that doesn't mean the person didn't have the question. It might only mean that they just weren't able to get to it.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to start with the Shark Tank application. I'm going to skip past some of the obvious stuff here. And yes, they're going to ask, describe in detail what your business or product is and give a lot of detail. And, you know, the key sentence here, here's how much I'm seeking and I'm willing to give this up. Be prepared for that. Everyone should already have that on the tip of their tongues. If they're watching this video, you should already know this. But here is where I see a lot of my clients neglect. And I'm going to wave with the pointer here. Exactly what are you going to do with the money? Where's the money going to go? People also have a tendency to fudge and overstate this, that they kind of claim to be along the stage of research and development and product development, when in fact all they've done is really got it to the idea stage. And unfortunately, not enough of my clients get things to the shipping and live stage. I wish I had more of those. It is my thought that you don't even want to apply to Shark Tank until you're already at the shipping and live stage. But they give you an example, they give you an opportunity to answer here. Be truthful. They're good at sniffing through people's smoke screens. And they only give 4 lines for this. But if I were applying, I would refer them to an appendix and go into great detail what I'm going to do with the money. And also make it clear that even if I don't get on the tank and the sharks don't invest in me, I'm getting ready to take some capital infusion or spend some of my own money. I'm going to do this regardless of whether Shark Tank wants me in or not. They do very much want to see that you're that serious that you're going to go forward and put at least some of your own money in. Which brings me to the next, probably most important point of this entire video. The sharks ask, how much money have you invested? What was done with that money? How'd that go? What bothers me about investor pitch competitions and people involved in making solicitations to investors is they often kind of skip over this. They skip over this question and don't get enough into detail that, look, I've made quite a commitment myself, because a lot of the people and a lot of my clients haven't. They haven't made that commitment. They've got assets. They won't spend it on their own invention and their own company. They want other people to spend it. That looks bad. Why are you even coming to us if you could be committing more resources of your own? How committed are you really to this? I like the intrusive and harsh nature of this question. I like that a person seeking money for an invention, a company, a small business, a startup, other type of entity, they should have to open up their knickers and talk about how much they spent and what they spent it on. This is also important too. How long has this been as a business, operating a business, filing its own tax returns, has its own bank account, its own EIN, its own separate tax return? How long has it been a business and how long has it been a hobby? These 2 questions right here would knock out effectively 98% of my clients who've invested very little of their own money, never really took it to the stage of being an entirely separate business entity, and are operating as a hobby, or even worse, as a fantasy, and are not operating as a business. I wish people would fill out the Shark Tank application even if they don't get accepted, because the discipline of having to do so is so good for inventors. And not enough of my inventors have that discipline. And I wish they would start showing it. They move on to gross income and net income. And they talk about what other attempts that they've asked about here to raise money from other sources. Where'd you go? How'd it go? What went wrong? Why do you think they turned you down? Don't leave this blank because they're going to find out about it. If you've made solicitations and it didn't go well, especially if they're on YouTube or some other internet related pitch competition, the sharks will find it, or the sharks researchers will find it. And it's important for several reasons. And even if the answer is no, you better have a good reason why they turned you down. The discipline of filling this out is important self-reflection that not enough inventors do. Here's one of my favorites here. How hard have you worked to build a business? What have you done already? How committed are you and how hard have you worked? And in a lot of cases, people claim to have worked really hard, but actually they were very tepid, very apathetic, and expected the invention, idea, business concept, or entity to just sell itself. That never works, and it's very insulting. These next three questions are important to me. Have you ever had a restraining order against you? What does that have to do with the sharks? What does that have to do with money? It has a lot to do with whether you are a viable person that I would want to invest in. Another one they don't ask, but that is going to come up later, is are you in arrears on child support? In other words, what's this money going to be used for? And how much access are you going to have to it personally? That stuff is going to be used for your personal expenses, not related to the business. Have you had a restraining order? Are you behind on your child support? Have you been either charged or convicted of a felony or misdemeanor? There can be instances where this does not necessarily disqualify you, but you better darn well tell the truth. They're going to find out. There are people who have had to answer yes to these and still gotten funding. What they're looking for is viability of the business, how long ago these things might have happened, and more, if they're going to put money in, are they going to get their money back out? I like the Shark Tank application, and I wish every one of my inventors and clients would fill it out and go through the discipline of having to answer this and do the self-reflection. Unfortunately, they don't. They don't want to answer these questions. They just want to be handed money without having to have really made the market for it. Now let's move on to to the Ycombinator application. I really like the Ycombinator application as well. I would like to see my clients fill both of them out. But where I'm going to go to in the Ycombinator application is I'm going to skip past some of the details because this video is already a little too long. And notice that they ask a lot of questions about all the founders and that they have to move to the Bay Area for at least 6 months or possibly a year. They've changed it around since I downloaded this application. They ask, again, a lot of questions, what degrees you have and how they can look up your social media presence and see what is already known and available about you. That's important. You better be willing to answer that. And in the case of Ycombinator, you have to be able to move to the Bay Area. And you're going to see in a couple minutes that you have to not have any other gigs or distractions while you're out there. Here are some things they ask about you personally, other than the startup, some things to kind of show them who you are a little bit as a person. They insist on knowing how many are going to commit working exclusively. That's an important question. Ycombinator is not going to fund you unless you're really committed. And a lot of inventors are partially committed or half committed. Really all they have is a hobby or a fantasy. Questions like this, strip those out real quick. This is important that, well, I'm finishing college, I'm going to grad school, but I'm going to work on it in the meantime. And this is a really important answer by the founder of Dropbox. I'm leaving my job and I'm going to work on this full time no matter what anybody does. That's an important sentence, and I wish more of my clients would say that. Some of them are committed, but they don't realize to express that, because that shows you're committed regardless of whether this application works out or not. You're going forward. Here, the Ycombinator asks some questions about how far along are you, and This is one of my favorite to ask inventors. What do people do now? What do they do right now in light of the fact that your product doesn't exist? And the answers I usually get are there's nothing else like it, and they just suffer. I don't like that as an answer, and most investment panels don't like that either. Don't say that. Have an answer that shows you've realistically thought about this. People are doing other steps other than what your invention does now. It's a question of whether yours is a good substitute for them. The answer that, well, they're not doing anything, they just suffer without it, or that there's nothing else out there like it, that's unacceptable. That's a deal killer. The way this question is phrased is good, and it's open-ended enough that you can be honest and speculate a little bit. Y-Combinator wants you to do that. It's okay that it's not always real clear that there is an answer. You should be able to say something intelligent, though. And in particular, what other companies that are in your market space just don't seem to get. That is an answer that should set you up well to be taken seriously and be incredible. However, a lot of inventors somehow skip past it or don't seem to get it. And then, of course, business model. How exactly, what will be your business model? Again, inventors have trouble with that too. How are you going to sell this? Well, that's your problem. Okay, thanks. Bye. Next. So I hope this has been of some help to you. These two applications are available by going to the Shark Tank website or going to the Ycombinator website, but I also store them on my website here at the at tannerpatent.com in the resources for inventors section, and very close to the bottom. And true, they change these applications a lot. These have been up there about 6 months, since the middle of 2018. The application could have changed since then, but the key points that I laid out, I doubt very much if they've changed.
Folks, I hope you understand. Shark Tank is entertainment, first and foremost. But there are some good lessons in it. Let's set aside the entertainment portions of it and think about the value and the lessons that one can get from it. There are things I don't agree with on the show, and I'm not a loyal, faithful fan that I watch every episode, but it's still worth knowing. There's some aspects to the Shark Tank show behind the scenes that I think are worth you being aware of. Regarding Y-Combinator, the questions they ask are good, and the informality and the lack of legal mumbo-jumbo in the Y-Combinator application, I like that. It's readable, it's understandable. I hope you folks find it the same way. It really brings out the value and useful information from an inventor, entrepreneur, or small business in a way that a lot of other forums don't have.
Thanks for watching. Let me know any other topics you want me to discuss. This YouTube channel is to help you. This is for information. I want to hear from you, and I want to know what things are on your mind.